Thank you, Alex.
And can we start the clock at 20 minutes? Thank you very much. Let's go.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Kind of intimidating to go on stage after you in this fiery introduction, but I'll do my best. And I'm quite radical, so I think I can live up to the topic tonight. So, my organization is called BitNation. But before starting to talk about BitNation, I want to talk a little bit about where we are right now in history. So, right now is the year of 2016. We have, I like to call this age the age of illusion of choices in governance, the age of illusion. We have approximately 7 billion people on Earth, about 200 nation-states, which we see as options, and we have, in most countries, something close to a democratic process of some sort, which we also perceive as an illusion of choice. And then there are other things that kind of adds to our sense of security when it comes to governance. For instance, the social contract, the constitution, and so forth. But in my opinion, those things are all just a cover-up of actual choice of governance, actual liberty of individual. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So right now, we're in Seoul, South Korea. From what I've read, there has been nearly 1 million people demonstrating on the streets of Seoul because you want to change your leadership, yeah? Thank you. So this is a very slow and cumbersome process, right? That is one of the problems with the government. The government doesn't really innovate because it's an oligopoly on governance, a global oligopoly on governance between those 200 entities that claim to be the sole service manufacturer of governance service within their geographical area that they control by force. So instead of simply shopping for a new leader, you have to go out on the street and do demonstrations and whatnot, right? And then you kind of blame that on democracy, saying, oh, well, it's not a perfect democracy, or the leadership is too corrupt, etc. But, you know, sometimes it can be even worse. Look at Syria, for instance. Their process of creative destruction have been extraordinarily hard. You know, we're going into several years now where people are killing each other in mass. That's how bad it gets when governments try to do creative destruction. They are not very well suited for it. So, but if we look at another example, like US, so just recently we had the US election, right? And President-elect Trump got elected, and everyone said, oh, well, it's democracy and work. So the majority decides, right? And if only democracy was more transparent, or if only democracy was more accountable, or more representative, whatnot, then this would all be fair somehow. But it's not. So if you look at the US election, about 74% of the US population, the US eligible population, eligible for voting, did in fact not vote for President-elect Trump. Okay. So let's think about democracy for a little bit. Okay, what do we feel about democracy? Do you guys like democracy? Okay, no comments, okay. I can tell you straight out, I don't like democracy. I think democracy is a scam, right? So imagine you want to go and buy an ice cream. So you can't just go to the shop and shop whatever ice cream you want. No, you have to wait 4 years before you go and buy an ice cream. And when you buy that ice cream, after 4 years, you can only choose between chocolate and vanilla. No other choices. And when you are in the ice cream store to buy your chocolate or vanilla ice cream, you have to agree with everyone else in the shop which flavor to buy, and you can only buy the same flavor as everyone else. Do we agree that we do not want to buy ice cream like that? Well, I agree with myself anyway, so, you know, I hope you do too. But anyways, if we don't accept that for something as trivial as buying ice cream, why do we accept that system for something as important as choosing who's going to govern us In my view, that's entirely unacceptable. Democracy is a failure not by execution, but by concept. So, is there an alternative? I like to think so. BitNation. I've created the world's first virtual nation offering actual governance services. BitNation is a virtual nation powered by the blockchain technology. The blockchain is a decentralized public ledger distributed amongst hundreds of thousands of different computers. It's the underlying technology of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. We are entirely open source. Our goal is not to take over governments. Our goal is to provide an open source protocol that people can fork to create their own governments. So right now we have built a proof of concept on our website, which you can go and use straight away. Please do. So let me just go through a little bit of some of the things you can do. So we have our blockchain-based public notary. The image that you can see behind you is of where the little yellow dot up there is where we recorded the first ever land title on the blockchain in Ghana, where 70% of the land lacks titles. We did that on the blockchain. We've also done marriages on the blockchain. We've done wills, we've done childcare agreements, we've done freelance contracts, business deals, and other things. And you can go online right now and notarize something on the blockchain, and it's going to take you less than 2 minutes, and at the moment, it costs $0. So compare that with any notary that you're aware of in any nation state, right? We're faster, more efficient, more secure, more private, and cheaper. You can register as a citizen, and when you do that, you can look up citizens that are either in your town, or when you travel, you can seek people up, and you can connect with them and have exchanges. And we have implemented a very rudimentary reputation system, which we believe is the backbone for a post-nation-state economy. So when you can't put people into jail, what do? You decrease their reputation or increase their reputation, right? That's the incentive mechanism for good behavior. So we're currently experimenting with implementing that for our citizenship registry. We also have about 50 embassies around the world. So I assume most of you in the room are South Koreans, right? So when you travel abroad and you have a problem somewhere in whatever country you're in, you go to the South Korean embassy and ask them for help, for assistance. And the BitNation embassies works in the exact same way. So it's just volunteers who register their home or their office or whatever it might be as embassies or consulates. And then when people come who needs help in their location, then they do everything they can in their power to help other BitNation citizens, whatever the matter might be. You can even create your own nation. We have created a center for help for people who want to create their own nation. That includes open source codes of law, constitutions, and an Ethereum-driven, what we call decentralized borderless voluntary nation, DBVN, which is similar to the DAO, decentralized autonomous organization concept that was quite famous a while ago on Ethereum. On the Ethereum blockchain, with a code that you can download, you can change it to suit your own preferences and create your own nation, whatever it might be, you know, democratic, authoritarian, capitalist, communist, you choose, right? But we provide you the necessary tools to build a nation exactly as you wish. So if you want to build your own nation, an important question to ask yourself is, what is a nation, right? So let's backtrack a little bit. So right now, we're used to nations providing everything, you know? I mean, everything, whether we want it or not. Most often than not, we don't want it, but still. So, you know, from education to healthcare, to food regulations, to you name it, right? But if we're really going to outcompete the nation state, if we're really going to change how things work, we need to kind of get down to the basics again and see what is the core function of a nation-state government. What is their one USP that they claim can't be outcompeted on? In your opinion, what is it? Right. No, I wouldn't say that, because private contractors do roads and infrastructure and are generally paid by taxpayers' money. But it's true that the government is better at doing large-scale projects. There is definitely an element where caution is useful for that, yes. But no, that is not the absolute core function. So if you look back at how... Huh?
The core function of government?
Yeah.
Identity.
No.
No,
that's very recent,
to
actually.
confirm your identity and your position in society relative to other people.
I have an answer.
No, that's actually a really recent interpretation of it. I mean, actually, passports weren't really issued until like Second World War and stuff, you know. So actually, it's true. Yeah.
Wealth redistribution.
Absolutely not. That is like the last application. You know, that is very, very modern and entirely arbitrary.
Okay. You better hurry, or else she's going to ask her husband to answer.
Yeah, quite. Okay, so let me just go on to my next slide. Okay, so here, you see the picture here? So that boy is 12 years old, he's called Mohammed. That boy is 7 years old, he's called Khalil. I took that picture in Benghazi, Libya, 2011, just a few days after NATO went in, after they installed a no-fly zone and started bombing on the bridges outside of Benghazi. And, you know, the rebel government took control. And to be fair, the rebel government was not a government, right? So when you come into a place where there is literally no government, everything in society have broken down. There is nothing. And it was not the first time I experienced that. I lived for 4 years in Afghanistan before that, and I saw a lot of ungoverned areas throughout those years. And the first thing that you need is security. Security, security, security. That is the one thing the government is supposed to provide. If we take it down to its very essence, if the government can't secure you as a person physically, secure your body, secure your family, secure your assets, then it's not a government, period. And so basically what you see in this kind of society, you see boys, you know, like Muhammad and Khalil, who are kids, who suddenly, when everything breaks down, put on their scout hats, they were Boy Scouts, you know, put on the scout hats and start providing security services. And it works. It becomes a functioning society again, a secure, safe society. And this is what the government is claiming monopoly on. This is what they're claiming is their unique selling point, USP, right? So I beg to prove them different. So I said, okay, if this is their USP, we need to be able to outcompete them on their core function. Security and jurisdiction. And security and jurisdiction are becoming more and more the same thing by the day, because more and more of our assets, not just, Bitcoin or whatever, but also like houses and cars and whatever, are becoming digitalized and recorded in digital ledgers and exchanged like that. So security and jurisdiction are becoming the same thing. So how do you do to completely make nation-state governments relevant? Well, you create a superior jurisdiction that's simply better, faster, cheaper, more secure, and more user-friendly. That's how you do it. So I built Pangea. So the technologies that underpins the Pangea jurisdiction are two core technologies. One is called secure scuttlebutt. It's a communication protocol, because every contract between people starts with a conversation, and therefore you need a chat application as the basis. And more businesses moving over to chat platforms anyway, so it makes sense. And secure scuttlebutt is a end-to-end encrypted and completely decentralized communication protocol, more secure and more decentralized than, for instance, Signal. So we choose that for our code base. And then Ethereum, because Ethereum is a blockchain that is Turing complete and therefore optimized for what we call smart contracts. Smart contracts are essentially applications that runs on the blockchain that you can't censor and with no downtime, etc., which is what a contract is ultimately, right? So I'm going to take the example of, just to show you how this works in practice. So this is friends of mine who got married at Burning Man this year.
I was there at that wedding.
So they got married at Burning Man because, well, first of all, they like Burning Man, obviously, but also because, they don't want the government or any particular church or religion involved in their marriage.
Can I just say one thing?
No.
It's a very rare thing. Okay.
Okay.
The guy there with the unicorn hat on
Yeah.
employed a guy named Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is now
Oh my
the
God,
chief strategist
yes.
for the Trump White House.
Oh, that's
So
horrible.
that's the guy who was the boss of the guy who's now Trump's boss.
That's hilarious. Okay. So anyways, so they choose to get married at Burning Man instead of getting married, in a church or with a government. So just for the sake of, well, semi-privacy, obviously it's not so private because they're on full display, but still, for the sake of privacy, I'm going to call them Bob and Alice, right? So how would Bob and Alice go about to get married on the blockchain, on Pangea, the BitNation jurisdiction? Okay, so first, the most important, as I mentioned briefly earlier, you have your identity, which you own yourself. You own all the data of your identity, you own your reputation, and you own your verification methods. And so let's say Alice doesn't entirely trust Bob for whatever reason, so Bob can choose to share certain information with Alice, but only the information he wants to share. There's no central authority for Alice to go to get all of Bob's information, and neither for a government or a bank or anyone else, right? Bob and Alice both entirely own their own information, but you can still vet people to the level they're comfortable with themselves. Okay, so after they vet themselves, then they go and choose their code of law. So, maybe one of them apply to Sharia law, the other one to, English common law, who knows, right? And maybe they decide to meet somewhere in the middle, let's say civil law, civil code. And so they just drag and drop that into the contract as easily as you just drag an emoji, into the contract. It's all emoji-based. And then, so you choose your witnesses, Bob and Alice both want their parents and their siblings and their friends, they want the whole kind of community to agree with them, right? And witness in case of conflict. Third, you choose your arbitrator. So basically, just like you would go on, like, let's say hotels.com, for instance, and you go down a screen and see, like, who, I like this arbitrator, he's not really competent, but, he's cheap, etc., so I'm going to choose him, right? And you have the rating and everything that goes with it. And then So you generate the contract, you sign your contract with a digital signature, you notarize your contract in the Ethereum blockchain, and then in case of dispute, you call upon all these codes of law, the intent, the arbitrator, etc. And the whole process costs less than $2 and less than 2 minutes. That's about an order of magnitude of time efficiency of about 100 times in comparison to UK law, and 400 times cost efficiency. So you might think I'm crazy saying, well, you know, this is all an illusion and this is never going to happen. But actually, if you look at the numbers, you know, people are increasingly, in the world's fastest growing market, people are increasingly doing business using their smartphones. So this is happening, and it's happening very fast. And if you don't get on the train, you're going to get lost behind. So we are just adding the necessary technology to speed it up and make it better. So, where do you want to see yourself 2026? Do you want to live in a government that's autocratic, democratic, holocratic, socialist, capitalist, whichever else? Do you want to join someone else's nation, several nations, none at all, or build your own nations? I don't know, but I know where I want to be in 10 years' time. I want to live in a world where tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of nations are competing for citizens, for offering the best service, the best product at the best price, rather than the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you. So now it's my great pleasure to invite Mr. C.K. Park to present to us